Hey guys, Metal Driver here, bringing you another WWE Elite review. Today I'll be looking at Series 85, The Undertaker. On the sides of the box you see an image of The Undertaker on both sides. On the back you see a brief bio, career highlights, a description of this figure, and the rest of the figures that are in this wave. Bio includes from Death Valley, weight 309 pounds, and a height of 6 feet 10 inches. Career highlights include WWE Champion, World Heavyweight Champion, and a 21 straight WrestleMania win streak. The description states, at the WrestleMania 36 Boneyard match, the Dead Man showed AJ Styles why he made a career out of taking souls and digging holes. Alright, so this is an exciting figure to have because this is based on his final match appearance.
You serious?
At least that's what he says. You never know with Vince and Taker, but hopefully he does stay retired. But without further ado, let's go ahead and open this figure up and take a closer look at The Undertaker. Alright, and here we have the Dead Man, The Undertaker, out of the packaging. But before we take a look at the figure, let's go ahead and look at the accessories that he comes with. Alright, so The Undertaker comes with a shovel, which looks pretty nice, perfect for his depiction of his final match. Then he comes with interchangeable hands, which are open grip hands. Now he does have gripping hands on the figure right out of the packaging, so that's so he can hold the shovel. These hands are a bit wider, so these would be good for a chokeslam pose. Then he does come with a bandana. Now this is a nice looking bandana. This is brand new, so it's got some nice detail on the plastic, so it looks really good. The line work on the paint looks really good on this. As I said, this is a new bandana. Usually we get different style of bandanas for the American Badass Undertaker. So this is nice, and it does fit on the figure's head really nicely. So in putting this on, I would recommend putting it underneath this braid here, the ponytail. Putting it on the figure, so that looks really good. It's a nice big bandana on this figure. So you can go ahead and take that off. Now taking a closer look at the head sculpt. Now this is a brand new head sculpt. It does look very similar to the collector's edition Undertaker that was released back in late 2020. So you can see both head sculpts are very similar. They're both supposed to depict a older Undertaker. However, the new head sculpt does have some subtle changes. His mouth is closed and the wrinkles on the face is more pronounced than on the previous head sculpt. So the detailing on this head looks really good. So as you can see, the wrinkles you can clearly see on the figure. So I think Mattel did a really good job on this head sculpt. The paint looks good on the beard and on the eyes. He's got this nice shaved head on the side, and then on the back you've got his braided ponytail. So really good head sculpt. I think it looks just like how the Undertaker looked during this match. Then taking a look at his gear. So he's wearing his vest that he wore during that match. This looks really good. So you've got his Taker symbol here, all these studs around the symbol that's painted. The paint, for the most part, is pretty decent on mine. You can see some sloppiness in certain parts here and here. It's not a really big deal. You've got some more texturing here by the collar and the shoulders. So these are not painted, they're just black studs. You've got some more painted parts here. Silver. Again, the paint isn't perfect. Does look a bit sloppy in certain parts. Again, it's not a really big deal in my opinion. Then looking at the front, we have a lot more detailing on the vest with the paint. So silver buttons, silver studs, got silver buckles here. Again, it is pretty noticeable that on certain parts, the paint does not look perfect. So you can see that here and also here. But again, it's not the worst thing in the world in my opinion. And the arms are painted really well, as usual. Mattel does a good job on painting the tattoos on the figure. Now this vest, I do think it's removable. Looks like here you can probably take this off. Actually, no, it's not. So it does look like this part here is glued. So it's not intended to come off. However, if you take an X-Acto knife or some scissors, heat this up, pretty sure you can rip this off. But I don't see why you would want to do that, because this is how he looked during that match. It doesn't look like it's going to hinder too much of the articulation. But it does appear that underneath the vest, it's the same torso as the collector edition Undertaker figure. Then looking at the lower body, it's got some new sculpt work, so they're not using just the same legs as the previous Undertaker figures, which is good because it seems like all the ones that I have always have these loose legs, even on this other one here. So they're constantly loose. However, this one seems pretty decent. Doesn't look too bad so far. Although there are these gaps here on the thigh cuts. So hopefully that's just mine. Perhaps with a little bit of heat I can fix that. But looking at the sculpt work, this is new. They have new sculpted pieces. So again, they're not the same legs. So you've got all these buttons, these straps all over, and the buttons are painted. Again, not painted perfectly. As you can see here, this is kind of sloppy. Got some sloppiness here and also here. So not a perfect looking figure. This side looks a lot better. You do see some new sculpted work here on the calves and on the front. So I do like the sculpt work. The paint isn't perfect. I personally don't really care so long as the paint on the buttons aren't painted like way out here and way over here. Is it perfect? No. Is it the worst thing in the world? I don't think so. Is this supposed to be a biker look? So to me it's not going to look perfect. It's not supposed to look pretty. It's supposed to look gritty, dirty, imperfect. So I think it works for this design. So even though the body's not perfect, I think it looks good. But the head sculpt for me, I think this is really nice. Then going over the articulation, head is on a ball joint. Can't look that high up. Can look that far down. So pretty good range. Can turn side to side and it can tilt really well. Shoulders have hinges which allow it to go that high up, so not too high up. Can go all the way around. There's a bicep swivel, single jointed elbow, swivel and hinge at the wrist. Now the torso does have an ab crunch. It is limited by this vest here, but it can go that far down and go that far back, so not too bad. There's a waist swivel. The hips have ball joints which allow the legs to go that far out, which is really good, and go that high up. There is a thigh cut, and as I mentioned, it is a bit gappy on mine, so hopefully that can be fixed. He has double jointed knees. Then the ankles do have hinges, but they are limited due to the bottom of the pants, but there is excellent ankle pivot, and that is nice because normally with Mattel figures you don't have that big of a range there in the ankle pivot. Alright, and here is Elite 85 Undertaker next to two other Undertakers depicting his final years in the company. So this one is based on his WrestleMania 33 appearance, next to the Collector's Edition Undertaker, which depicted his horrendous match against Goldberg. Then here he is next to the recently released Wreck and Slam Cycle. So obviously they're going to scale well next to each other because both of these are produced by Mattel. So if you're looking to display this new Undertaker figure, I think this would be a great pickup, so that way you can have them displayed on your shelf or even pose them in photography, which would be really cool looking. Then here he is on the Slam Cycle. So again, this looks really cool. Really glad that Mattel released this motorcycle recently. It's almost as if they planned that on purpose. Either way, I think this looks great on the figure. So if you're gonna pick up this figure, I think you should definitely pick up this Slam Cycle as well. Alright, so what are my final thoughts on Elite 85 Undertaker? I think this is a really good figure. If you're a big fan of The Undertaker, then I'm going to say this is an obvious figure you'd want to pick up. I think it's pretty solid, and even if you're not the biggest Undertaker fan, I think this is still a figure that's worth having in your collection because this is based off his final match, or at least so far, his final match. You never know. Wrestlers tend to break their retirements. But this is a unique look. This is based on a pretty cool match in my opinion. I am a big fan of the Boneyard match. So this would be a nice figure to add to your collection, especially if you also purchase the Wreck and Slam Cycle, which I would highly recommend. So I think both pieces would look great on a shelf. So I definitely think this figure is worth picking up. So if you like this review, go ahead and hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe so you can see more WWE Elite reviews. Follow me on social media and keep up to date with all my wrestling figure photography, and I'll see you next time.